Bonjour, mes amis, and welcome to Gourmet Cooking. Well, we're going to take a little trip to Italy today, and we're going to do a wonderful dish that has its roots way back in time in ancient Rome, and it's a soup. It's called risi e bisi, green peas and rice soup. Delicious, and it's classic dish. Along with that, we're going to take a nice fresh ham. We're going to braise that in an Italian dessert wine called Marsala wine. And then we're going to take these beautiful eggplant, slice them, put some seasoning in the slices and some tomato, and bake those. It makes a beautiful dish and so tasty. So those are our three dishes for tonight, and the ham takes just about 20 minutes. The soup, the rice and peas, take about 20 minutes. So in order to get it going, I started a little earlier. I took 2 onions, and I have sauteed those in some butter and just a little bit of peanut oil. 4 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of peanut oil. Now, I want those to be transparent and cooked, but not brown like we would do it as we would do in Cajun cooking. We want these just cooked, but not caramelized. So we've got them to about that point, and we need to proceed with the rest of the dish, and that's going to take, first of all, 4 cups of some frozen green peas. These are partially frozen now. They were frozen a few minutes ago when we put them out, but they're beginning to thaw a little bit under the lights here. So turning our heat up a little higher on the onions, let's first take our peas and put those in. We want to toss the peas in the onions and the butter and sort of let them come unthawed. And then we will proceed with the dish. So we have our 2 onions, 4 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of peanut oil, and 4 cups of the green peas. Turning our heat up high, we'll have those up to heat in a moment. In the meantime, we're going to require some rice, and we have 1 pound of some nice rice. This is our regular long grain rice. So we have 1 pound of the rice. We'll go into this along with the peas, as well as some chicken stock. We have 8 cups of chicken stock, and we have it hot so that when we add it to the rice and the peas, it won't take so long to come back to boiling. So we're going to go ahead. We should maybe let these peas come a little higher heat before we proceed, but we won't get the dish done if we don't, and it'll take care of itself. We can add the rice at this time, or we could have added the chicken stock first and then the rice. It's not critical either way. I like to put the rice into the dish and let it coat with the oil and the butter. And then we're going to add our 8 cups of chicken stock, boiling chicken stock. And this needs then to cook for 20 minutes. At the end of the cooking of 20 minutes, we will then garnish it with 2 more ingredients, and we'll have one of the most delicious and classic soups of all time, and one that goes way back, again, to the days of Imperial Rome. Now, since this is a simmering process, we're simply going to put the peas on the back burner, which I have turned on, and bring forward a nice roaster here, a braising device, so that we can cook our ham. And what we have here is a fresh ham. In other words, the leg of a pig, the hind leg of a pig, and we've had cut off the lower portion of the shank here to make a nice roast. Now, we need to salt and pepper this. However, first, I've put this onto a hot fire. It needs about 3 tablespoons of olive oil to heat up, and we will then brown our roast in the oil. In the meantime, we can just do a little bit of seasoning on the outside, a little salt, and a little pepper. Covering it with the pepper. All right. So now this is ready to be braised in the hot oil. Now, the oil isn't quite hot enough yet, but it will be coming up to heat very shortly. So let's just put our ham aside. Now, that was braising. The ham was braising in 2 cups of Marsala wine. And that marinade we're going to use. Marsala wine is a dessert wine. Now, there's 2 kinds, a dry and a sweet. We use the dry in cooking. The sweet would be drunk as a dessert wine with fruit or a sweet dessert. It's a delightful wine. It's primarily a dessert wine, but it's used often in cooking in Italian cuisine. So that is going to be part of our braising liquid, along with some chicken stock very shortly. Now, let's see. This oil is just about getting there. We can go ahead and start. We're simply going to take our nice, it was ready. All right. We're going to take our nice piece of pork and let it brown on one side and then turn it around 2 or 3 times. And to that, we're going to need to add some aromatic vegetables. And there are 3 basic ones. We have some celery, which we want to cut into small pieces. All right, celery and carrot. We have 2 carrots, 2 stalks of celery, and we're going to have 2 onions. Again, we simply want to dice these. And they will go into our ham as part of the cooking process. And we have 2 onions, and I'll spare you the chopping since we've done that so many times. Now, these 3 vegetables, aromatic vegetables, are used in many styles of cooking. In the French line, this would be called a mirepoix. So a recipe that says saute a mirepoix, they're talking about these 3 vegetables, carrots, celery, and onion. In the Italian cooking, this is called a battuto. So it's just little terms that are used in various styles of cooking, and all it means is some nice aromatic vegetables are needed to flavor sauce. All right, we're going to cook that. Now, I'm going to shortcut a little bit. Normally, I would turn that roast on all sides and brown it real nicely. But again, time is of importance to us, so we'll proceed. I already have one roast already prepared for service a little while. At this point, we add our battuto of the onions, the celery, and the carrots. And mixing those around a little bit, we want then to add the marinade. That is the Marsala wine, the 2 cups of Marsala wine, and the drippings from the roast while it was marinating. So that is going to be the basis of our braising liquid and the base for our sauce that go with this. Now, that should cook another 3 to 5 minutes, but we have many things to do. So we're going to proceed, though, because it's all going to blend together. It's going to cook for 2.5 hours. So it's all going to blend beautifully together. Now that we have the wine, and the fragrance is just fantastic here, we're going to add 1.5 cups of chicken stock. And that gives us our braising liquid and our base for our sauce. You'll have all these aromatic vegetables giving off their wonderful flavors, the salt and pepper for seasoning, and the juice from the roast itself. Now we bring that to the boil, cover, and turn that down to simmer and let it cook for 2.5 hours. Periodically we turn the roast so that it has time to go through cook in the juice on all sides. And because it is a large roast and the liquid does not cover it, we need to turn that frequently. Now we're going to push this to the side And as I said, we already have one done, and we'll come back to that in a moment. In the meantime, let's get our eggplant in the oven because they too take a little while. Now, I'm only going to prepare a couple here on camera. I already have about 6 in the oven, and they've been cooking for an hour and a half. Take these nice eggplant. We're going to slit this about 3/4 of the way through, and then do the same twice on one side and match that on the other. So I'll have 5 slits in our eggplant, as you can see. Let's do another. We have the primary, secondary, and tertiary. All right, the second and third on this side, and we have now prepared the 2 eggplant to receive some wonderful seasonings. And that's going to be, first of all, some garlic. Let's move this out of the way so you can see. We have 4 cloves of garlic, which we want to slice. You could chop, but it calls for slivers or nice slices of the garlic. All right, we have the 4 slices, the 4 cloves rather, sliced. We're going to add that to our little mixing bowl. And then we're going to add to that some nice basil. I wished I had fresh basil, but if we don't, why, the dried basil is adequate. We have here 2 teaspoons of the basil, which is going to blend with the garlic. And we're going to have some olive oil. So I'm going to take some of the olive oil and mix that with our garlic and basil, pepper, and salt. So these are our flavorings or our seasoning. And the first step is to take some of this and put a little bit in each slice, some of the garlic, the basil, salt and pepper, the oil. So we get each of our slits well flavored and seasoned. All right, let's do the other. A little garlic, a little basil, a little salt, and a little pepper. A little bit of olive oil to add its own flavor. So we've done that much. Now, the next step is to take some nice tomatoes, cutting the top off. We want to cut about 1/4-inch slices. And then we'll cut those in half. And then take, in the center, we'll put 2 slices. And then in each of the other slits, we'll put some tomato, 1 in the last slice. All right. Let's see, I'm going to probably have to cut another tomato. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we have the tomato, so let's cut one. Cutting a few slices, cutting them in half. We then put a slice of tomato in each slit. Along with that garlic and the basil and the olive oil and salt and pepper, it's really going to give us a wonderful flavor. Now, these are going to be wrapped in foil. Now, these are large eggplants, so I would allow a half of one of these to each person. If you can find nice smaller eggplants, all the better. So we take each of these, put it into a nice piece of foil, close it up. One more. Now, and we're going to put this into a 400-degree oven and bake that for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Let's go to our soup, which is cooking just nicely. The rice is just cooking and absorbing that liquid, and the peas are cooking well. So we'll have those in a few minutes. It's got another 10 minutes to go. In the meantime, let's take the roast that I had prepared earlier and bring that up to heat again. It's still warm, and you can see the lovely sauce that developed in gravy. And then the ham, which is nicely cooked. And you can see, though, it shrinks a little bit. So we're going to take that very shortly and make a little sauce out of the liquids there. Now, to do that, we need to thicken it. And the quick way to thicken it is to use a beurre manière. We have about 2 tablespoons of butter and about 2 tablespoons of flour. We want to mix those together, and that forms what the French call a beurre manière. I'm not sure what they would call it in Italian, but it has the quality of, when blended with a hot liquid, it will act as a thickening agent without lumping and making a mess of your sauce. But you need to be sure that the flour and butter are well blended, and I think we have just about achieved that. Now, we're going to use this shortly in our nice sauce. In the meantime, let's take a serving platter and first see if I can take this nice ham and place him on a nice serving platter. And now that we've got our sauce just bubbling again, I think we can add our beurre manière. Now, we do that by putting a little bit on a spoon and whisking it around, letting that butter melt, and it will blend with the sauce, and as it heats for a while, it will thicken that sauce without a lot of lumps. So we've put our thickening agent in. Let's get it all, make sure that sauce is adequately thickened. All right, putting that aside. Now, we'll stop here because I needed to do something I should have done at the beginning of the show. For those of you that are interested, it's a little late, but on page 94 and 95, you will find the recipes for this show. Sorry, I meant to do that earlier. All right, let's go back to our soup. It is nice. The rice is thickening and should be ready any moment for our final 2 ingredients, but we'll give those a chance. In the meantime, our sauce is just simmering away. We'll let that cook a little longer. So let's now go to the refrigerator, the oven, and retrieve our eggplant. Now, I'll retrieve the ones that I started before the show. And as you can see, I have 6 nice eggplant all wrapped in foil that have been cooking for an hour and 15 minutes, and possibly a little bit longer, but not much. Now, they are nicely cooked and they're very soft, so we have to open this and lift. A lot of juice has collected in the bottom of that foil. Whoop. So let's put eggplant 1. See if we can get all of these on the dish before our time runs out, because we still have a few chores to do. with our soup and our nice sauce. See if we can't pick this one up. Aren't they beautiful? And the fragrance of that basil and the tomato is just overwhelming. These are going to be fun to eat. Now, I'm just going to do one more since the platter will only hold it, and we'll reserve the other for a refill of this platter at some point in time. That is really not only eye-pleasing, but very taste-pleasing. In the meantime, let's take our nice roast again and our sauce. You could very well strain the sauce and have a clear sauce, or I prefer the texture and the flavor of all these aromatic vegetables in my plate, and it makes a wonderful garnish for the ham. So we have prosciutto fresco, a fresh ham, rosato alla Marsala, or braised in Marsala wine. So let's now go to our soup, which we will bring on center, and add the final two ingredients. Let's take a nice fresh spoon. We'll add just a little butter to our rice and pea soup. And as you can see, there's a liquid in there, and that is right, because that is a soup. This is not a risotto. A risotto would have absorbed all the liquid. We're now adding about a third to a half cup of some Parmesan cheese as our final flavoring. We'll blend that into the rice, the peas, and the chicken stock. This is really a wonderful soup. I could make a meal on just the soup alone. That with some crusty Italian bread and a nice wine would be fantastic. Let's get our serving bowl and see if we can't put our rice and peas and the liquid all in our nice bowl. Now that's taking a little too much time. Let's see if we can't pour this. Since we're still in the kitchen, I can do this. All right. And that cheese and butter just add the final fillip that really makes this a wonderful flavor. So, we have three interesting Italian dishes. So let's go over them quickly. Now we have the raw ham. Most of us are used to the boiled ham or the smoked ham. This is a fresh ham. It's a fresh leg of pig or pork. Just as you would buy a fresh leg of lamb, you buy this. This is a little larger, of course, because of the size. But it is the real leg on the lamb, on the pig. It's fresh, and you cook it as you would most any kind of meat. But we braise that particularly in this wonderful Marsala wine, a nice dessert wine that is very Italian and used in many, many dishes. It's used to make desserts like zablioni and other wonderful dishes. We have our risi e bisi, a classic soup of the Italian cuisine, and eggplant and tomato. Beautiful, flavorful. We're going to bring this into the dining room, and we'll see you there. In the meantime, here are some of the recipes. Well, now that we have our Italian meal all cooked, I'm ready to eat it, and I hope you would too. We have really a nice meal. It's very interesting and delicious. As we said before, but let's repeat. We have our very ancient soup of green peas and rice in a nice chicken broth called risi e bisi, and we have a nice fresh ham braised in Marsala wine with chicken stock and aromatic vegetables. Just delicious and fragrant. It's just unbelievable. And of course, these beautiful eggplant with the tomato and the basil and the salt and pepper and the olive oil baked, a really classic, beautiful dish. So we're going to enjoy all these, but first I think I'm going to serve myself a little bit of the soup and go with that, because frankly, I could make a meal out of the soup. You can see it's rather thick, but it has some liquid. It's not a risotto, it is a soup. So we have our nice, and it has marvelous garnishing in it, in the Parmesan cheese and the butter. It is so good. A little bit of Italian bread to accompany not only the risi e bisi, but the Marsala ham and the eggplant. Now we're going to enjoy this, and I would hope you would try this at home. It's not a hard meal to prepare, but it's one that will get you raves. But of course, any meal needs a little bit of white wine, un petit vin blanc, to round out these wonderful flavors. We're going to enjoy this. I hope you will too. A bientôt.
Voici le printemps, la douceur du temps nous fait des avances. Partez mes enfants, vous avez 20 ans, partez en vacances. Vous verrez agiles sur l'onde tranquille les barques.